Canada will impose reciprocal tariffs of 25% on over $20 billion of U.S. goods starting on Thursday.
The Congolese government is to meet with M23 rebels for peace talks in Angola next week, after the group captured key areas in the east of the DRC.
Ukraine has shown willingness for a ceasefire if Russia reciprocates, but will Putin abandon his no temporary ceasefire policy? Moscow's stance remains unclear.
Canada will impose reciprocal tariffs of 25% on over $20 billion of U.S. goods starting on Thursday. The measure was announced on the day that U.S. President Donald Trump's 25% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium went into effect. The EU also announced retaliatory measures on Wednesday in response to U.S. tariffs. In the announcement, Canada's foreign minister called on Europe to work together to remove them.
Learning the wrong lesson.
I've been telling my European colleagues that Canada is the canary in the coal mine. If the U.S. can do this to us, their closest friend and ally, then nobody is safe. Today, these unjustified tariffs were imposed upon you as well. So let's work together to eliminate them. Let's work together to encourage Americans to pressure their elected officials.
Canada's new tariffs would be on steel and aluminium products as well as goods including computers, sports equipment, and water heaters. They are in addition to its 25% counter tariffs on U.S. imports that were put in place on March 4th, in response to other Trump import taxes which he has partially delayed by 1 month.
The Congolese government is to meet with the Rwanda-backed M23 rebels for peace talks in Angola next week. Tensions escalated between the two after the militant group took control of the strategic Congo city of Goma in January. M23 is one of the around 100 armed groups that have been vying for a foothold in mineral-rich eastern Congo. The announcement comes after several cancelled peace talks hosted by mediator Angola that had previously excluded M23 rebels and instead focused on their Rwanda backers. The conflict between the two has created one of the world's most significant humanitarian crises, with more than 7 million people having been displaced.
Defense ministers from 5 major military European powers, France, Germany, Italy, Poland and Britain, met on Wednesday in Paris to discuss a new security framework for Ukraine as a response to the rapprochement between the US and Russia. This meeting came a day after 34 military chiefs from NATO countries as well as Japan and Australia met in the French capital in rare and confidential talks without their US counterparts. French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu said during a press conference on Wednesday evening that at this stage 15 countries are interested in continuing this process of developing this new security framework. France and Britain have been leading the charge to try to shore up as much support as possible for Ukraine since the US have started to pull back. Lecornu also announced that a new meeting will be held in 2 weeks with more defense ministers and without the US present in order to come up with more concrete proposals on security guarantees in Ukraine.
The Kremlin said on Wednesday it was awaiting details from Washington about a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. Moscow has repeatedly rejected freezing hostilities along the current front line, believing it has the upper hand on the battlefield.
I can't see them accepting anything that doesn't legitimize their land grab and ethnic cleansing in Ukraine. That's what they will set out to get from these negotiations. They've made it clear it's not, as they often say, for external consumption about NATO expansion. It's about destroying the Ukrainian people and destroying the Ukrainian state. That is still the objective. And the fear is that if you simply freeze this conflict, that you just freeze the injustice, you freeze the occupation, you freeze the displacement.
Putin himself has repeatedly rejected the possibility of a temporary ceasefire, saying that he was focused on addressing what he calls the, quote, root causes of the conflict.
But one thing I think that's interesting and perhaps worth emphasizing is how shaky Putin's commitments are to some of his objectives. Look back to 2023 with the rebellion of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Look how far they advanced in one day, 800 kilometers in one day, and nobody came out to support Putin. There weren't all these banners saying, we support Putin, stop this Yevgeny. People were looking for selfies with Yevgeny Prigozhin in Rostov-on-Don. So the regime in that respect is quite fragile. And I think that, and this is the pity that Trump isn't applying pressure on Putin, because he has so much potential to apply pressure. And power in Russia is much more important to Putin than victory in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. That's all.
Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday, Ukraine has shown it is willing to adopt a ceasefire. Now, he says, Russia needs to respond.
This building in the heart of Brussels is at the center of intense political discussions within the European Union. Euroclear is believed to hold 258 billion euros in frozen Russian assets. The 27 are divided over whether this money should be confiscated to support Ukraine. This divide is reflected in the European Parliament, which debated the issue on Wednesday. Some member countries, such as France and Belgium, believe that seizing these assets would be illegal and are urging caution.
The reason why the different governments which are particularly involved together with the European Central Bank and other EU institutions are working to verify what are the legal and financial possibilities. It's clear that, if there were no risk on the market and no risk from the legal certainty to confiscate the Russian fund, we would push to confiscate them immediately.
For the time being, the EU has already seized the interest on these assets, valued at €3 billion per year. Others point out that confiscating Russian assets could also threaten the confidence of foreign investors in the single currency. The Baltic states, Poland, and other countries close to the Russian border that wish the money to be seized reject this argument.
Any decision needs to be anchored in international law. So as long as international law is abided in the confiscation, it is possible to do it. It's a separate thing. Euro stability and the euro market is very reliable for anyone to invest into.
The capitals that are defending prudence believe that these Russian funds could also enable the Union to invite itself to the table of any peace negotiations. What's more, these assets could be used as a bargaining chip.
Austria's three-party coalition agreed it would temporarily halt family reunification procedures for migrants, a move critics say is a violation of European asylum law. Chancellor Christian Stocker justified the proposal by pointing at Austria's social services, which he claimed were under strain.
Dies ist, wie ich schon gesagt habe, eine vorübergehende Maßnahme. Es soll daher sichergestellt werden, dass wir jene, die in den vergangenen Jahren zu uns gekommen sind, entsprechend integrieren können, in diese Gesellschaft, auch im Bildungssystem aufnehmen können und gleichzeitig gewährleisten, dass die zu uns kommen, aber auch jene, die schon hier sind, mit diesem Zustrom auch zurande kommen. Letztlich die Grundlage für den Erhalt.
Critics say the plan violates European asylum law. It would involve invoking the EU's emergency clause, which stipulates that national law can take precedence over EU law in the event of a threat to public order or security.
Bosnian state-level prosecutors issued arrest warrants for 3 top Bosnian Serb officials over a series of alleged separatist moves in recent weeks. The Bosnian prosecutor's office issued orders for Bosnian Serb majority entity President Milorad Dodik, Prime Minister Radovan Viskovic, and Parliament Speaker Nenad Stevandic. Dodik has repeatedly said he does not recognize the state-level jurisdiction and will not go to the capital Sarajevo for questioning.
Nema tog udara ili muke koju nisam spreman da istrpim za Republiku Srpsku. Milorad Dodik će obavljati svoje poslove, putovati, ali nikada neće otići iz Republike Srpske. I ako neko misli da smo kukavice, grdno se prevari.
Bosnia's court previously convicted Dodik of disobeying orders from the country's international peace envoy Christian Schmidt. Shortly after, Dodik introduced new laws meant to ban the operation of state-level security and judicial institutions in the Serb-majority part of the country.
The prosecutor's office of Bosnia and Herzegovina has issued an order to the judicial police to bring in the political leadership of Republika Srpska entity, including President Milorad Dodik. The prosecutor's office charged them with committing the criminal offense of attacking the constitutional order. This is a consequence of political decisions of the region of that entity, where the National Assembly adopt laws that prohibit the activities of the state, judicial and police agencies, which the government Republika Srpska considers unconstitutional. All of these decisions have been temporarily suspended by the Constitutional Court Bosnia and Herzegovina. Belmina Čorbić, Euronews, Sarajevo.